welcome everyone. Welcome to the Total Truth Show. And here on the Total Truth Show, we want to help you break free from the lies and propaganda of the mainstream media. All the disinformation and misinformation, we want to help you blast through all of that. And my name is Ken Kleinberg, coming to you all the way from the USA, San Diego, California.
And I'm Aldwyn Altuney, known as the Media Queen from the Gold Coast in Australia.
There is a great awakening happening in the world right now, and you're going to want to come along for the ride.
A lot of lies are coming to the surface. There's a lot of awakening happening, and as this awakening is happening, people realize they've been deceived for years. They've been lied to for years around all sorts of things. A lot of people have been blind to what has been going on in the world, and now they're starting to see. They're starting to see things in a different light.
Through our show, we want to raise global consciousness to quantum critical mass. And we don't want you just to accept the things that we're saying. That goes for our guests as well. We want you to do the research for yourself. Get out there and start questioning things. Start looking things up. Do the research. We want to pave the way for a new awakened world. And we want you to come along for the ride. So with that, let's get started, you guys. Let's dive into today's episode. Once again, welcome.
Yay, welcome to Total Truth Show episode 91. The truth about healing is our topic today. And we had a guest lined up today who unfortunately pulled out last minute because she had an emergency in her family. And this is the thing about the topic of healing, is sometimes things can happen unexpectedly, unpredictably, last minute. So Ken and I have decided, because we've already promoted the show everywhere, we are going to run with it with him and I, and we will give our version of the truth about healing. Now, we welcome you wherever you're joining us live on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you are, Spotify, etc. Welcome aboard. We would love to hear where you're from, and we like to make this show interactive. So if you have something you want to add about healing and your journey and what you've noticed, we would love to hear your comments through this show. Welcome aboard to my co-host, Ken Kleinberg. How are you today?
I am doing amazing, and I do want to announce to everyone that so for me, today it's Aldwyn's birthday, and her birthday for you guys in Australia was actually yesterday. So also put in the chat just a happy birthday towards Aldwyn, because it legitimately is her birthday, at least in America.
Yay! Thank you, Ken. That deserves a clap. Yay! Happy birthday to me for yesterday in Australia and for today in the US. Yay! I can celebrate my birthday twice. And happy birthday to my dad, who also shares the same birthday as me, and to all fellow Capricorns. In fact, there's a lot of my friends that are actually born in January or December, late December as well. So huge happy birthday to all the Capricorns for this month. And, it is a great opportunity to celebrate life every time you have a birthday, because it means you are living longer. Okay. Every year we survive another year. It means that we have come through the other journey, where a lot of people haven't. And so this is where it's important to recognize and remember that. Now, Ken, for those who don't know about you, can you share a bit of your background, please?
Yeah, so a bit of my background. That is quite a story, so I'm going to try to condense it here. A little bit about my background is so I'm a weight loss coach. I have lost 62.5 pounds, and I've been able to keep that off for 6+ years now, all without a diet and having that be sustainable. And that is exactly what I teach other people how to do, is not just how to lose the weight, but literally how to keep it off and keep it off for good. Because honestly, 95% of the people out there that go to lose the weight, sure, they definitely lose the weight, but 95% of them gain it back, and more so most of the time. So basically, I equip people with an empowered mindset. I equip them to see past the industry lies, the food industry, the health industry lies. And I also equip them to literally see past the marketing deception of this industry. And like I said, to keep the weight off for life, no diets whatsoever at any time ever again.
Amazing. And Ken and I actually met online at a networking event during COVID. And how we came about to do this show is that we had a meeting after this networking event and we got along famously. We were on the same page with a lot of things that were going on in the world at the time. I interviewed Ken on my show, Media Queen TV, and he interviewed me on his podcast. So for those who haven't seen or heard your podcast, Ken, can you share a bit about your podcast? And if people want to come on that, are you still looking for people to interview for that show?
Well, there's actually, am I unmuted? Yeah, I am. There's actually 2 opportunities. So if you would like to be interviewed by me, I have opened up a brand new platform called Expert Interviews with Ken. And it is a separate YouTube channel. And what's really cool about it is it gives you a spotlight to be able to share your story and all the things around that. And then afterwards, you get the link to that YouTube video once it gets uploaded. And if you want, you also get the video file so you can break it up into reels for your content. So that's that. And then I also have my own personal podcast, which is Fat Fighter for Truth. And Fat Fighter for Truth, I haven't put too many episodes up there recently, but there's some really good stuff on that podcast. What I've been really working on lately is my main YouTube channel, which has lots of content on there. So um, if you want to subscribe to that YouTube channel and get the content that I put out on there, towards the end of the show, we will share with you a link on how you can get there and subscribe and get all kinds of really cool video content on there and stuff for your journey.
Beautiful. And for those who haven't seen Media Queen TV, we have a YouTube channel as well, which actually has had a few strikes lately with some of our controversial information. Apparently, we've been putting medical misinformation out there on this show. Can you believe it? So we have had a few strikes on YouTube. And if you get 3 strikes on YouTube in 90 days, then you get your channel taken down. So I have a second YouTube channel, which we're currently streaming to at the moment until those strikes are lifted. And we will keep speaking our truth regardless of the fact checkers out there and regardless of the censorship that happens in certain media. And that's part of why we do this show, is to help get more of the truth out about all sorts of topics. And I want to welcome right now, before we get into this hot topic of healing, Megan DeVito is with us on LinkedIn. Hello, Megan. She says, hi, Ken and Aldwyn. Happy birthday. Thank you so much, Megan. Appreciate it. We've got Win Hypnotherapy has joined us on Instagram. Good to see you there. Megan says diet is a bad 4-letter word. Now, I did hear a while ago that a lot of people have said that when they diet, often they will put on some weight and then lose some weight and then put on some weight. And usually it goes kind of 10% either way. So if your normal weight is, 50 kilos, for example, you might put on 5 kilos, then lose 5 kilos. And it sort of becomes this oscillation that can happen with that. So, Ken, what's your experience with the word diet and with that being a bad 4-letter word, according to Megan?
First, I want to give a shout out to Megan. Hey, Megan, I'm not sure if this is the first time you've seen our show together or our show or what, but really, really glad to have you in the audience for however long you want to view. So love it, love it, love it. So Aldwyn, that is a loaded question, how I feel about diets. That's like, oh my goodness, let me open up the floodgates. Well, first of all, let me preface this and go, diets are literally the definition of insanity for me. And why is that? Honestly, if you're going to do all that work to lose the weight for whatever event, X, Y, and Z, for this, for that, by such and such date, doesn't it make a lot more sense to do it in a way that produces more lasting results? So it's the last time you ever have to do it again. I just don't understand how people constantly go from diet to diet to diet. They go on a diet, they lose the weight. A couple of years later, they're back to square one. They got to go on another diet and then you lose the weight. And then a couple of years later, at onward and so forth and onward and so forth. Doesn't it hit anybody's mind that that is just not working? It's like, I mean, I guess you get the rush because, yay, you made it to your goal weight and da 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 da. And then once that happens, you just kind of let loose and life goes on and boom, you're back again. And most of the time, when people gain the weight back, most of the time they gain more back. I mean, at least that's what happened to me in my journey. I went on a couple diets, and I definitely lost some weight and looked good, felt good. And then stuff kind of happened. And lo and behold, I ended up at the heaviest weight of my life at one point, and I had to lose the weight all over again. And here's, I don't get the diet thing. It should never be about a diet ever again. And plus, the other thing about so-called diets is that it tends to be kind of like a one size fits all, and everybody's different. So, I mean, yeah, I can just, uh, here's what I'll share about diets. I want you to take everything you've ever known, and this is actually in my mini boot camp series. I actually open with this in the mindset section. So I want you to take everything you've ever known about a diet, every list, every restriction, every food plan, all of it. I want you to take everything you've ever been taught. I want you to package it up into a wonderful little cardboard box. Okay, I want you to picture all these words and concepts going in the cardboard box, right? And then I want you to put the top on the box. I want you to put a bow on it, make it look all nice and pretty. And then I want you to go to the store. I want you to buy the largest bottle of lighter fluid that you can buy. And I don't want you to squirt it on there. I want you to chop the top off of it, and I want you to dump the entire bottle on that box and light it into a freaking blaze of glory. We need to get rid of the mindset of diets because it's not producing lasting results. It might produce temporary results for you. And I'll be the first to admit, yeah, sure, anybody can go out and lose 30, 40 pounds, right? But it's not producing real results. And one of the reasons for that is because diets literally skip the inward journey. They skip this and what happens in here. This inside here is what's going to produce your lasting, permanent results. Diets literally skip all of that treasure of learning, growing, getting better, getting wiser, all of it. You get, another word I'll throw in here, you get robbed of all of that treasure. And so that's why it can't be about a diet anymore. And that's why I'm so passionate about really helping people break free from a system that diets are included in that system, but a system that literally is designed to keep people sick, stuck, and overweight, because that's how that system makes money. And I've got plenty of stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight on that particular aspect of the topic, how the system is making people sick, how you can get out of that system, and then how you can begin healing yourself and how that process happens. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an insider look on what I'm going to be throwing at you tonight. And most of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about, by the way, is in my mini bootcamp series. So you're going to be getting a little bit of an insider look into that as well this evening too. Before I dive into all of that and become the biggest fire hose you'd ever seen, I want to switch it back over to Aldwyn so she can give her version and all of that.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you so much. And I back Ken there with the welcome to Megan and to others have joined us. We've got Jude B. Barathy joining us on Instagram. Megan says, hey, happy to be here. She says, powerful. And yes, I would definitely, say diets are not sustainable. I think there's some good things maybe to take from some diets. Like I must say the blood type diet over the years, as an A type diet, I have noticed, or as an A plus a blood type, I have noticed that when I eat more vegetables, as it says with the A diet, that they're more vegetarian styles, whereas O blood types are, get more energized by meat. And I have seen examples of that in my life. And, I'm vegetarian nowadays. So, Ken's a big meat eater. So, there's going to be, different strokes for different folks, and what might work for one person might not work for others. So it's very interesting to see what different diets have to offer. And for a lot of people, I have noticed, yes, they've lost some weight, but then in no time at all, they put the weight back on again often, whereas Ken's, kept it off for 6 years, which is extraordinary. And I think when it comes to health and to healing, we need to look at not just the body, but we need to actually look at multiple levels of healing. We need to take a holistic approach to this. We've got the mental side, the physical side, the emotional side, even the spiritual side. We've seen some really dark energies in the world, particularly lately in the last few years. It's kind of come to the fore with a lot of darkness, a lot of dark, heavy energy. And whether you're Christian or not, or believe the Bible or not, I do believe a lot of what we've seen in Revelations is starting to come about. The fires in California, the wars around the world. There's some interesting things going on in the world, and there's no coincidences that we're all here at this time. And so while there's all these external forces and things that we can't control in the world, it's even more important that we look at healing as a holistic approach, and as something that you're not just going to get healing with one diet. You actually do need to look at all the practices in your day and in your week that help bring you healing. And for me personally, I've had depression over the years. I felt invisible for a long time growing up as a first generation Australian in Sydney, Northern Beaches area of Sydney, where I grew up, with Greek, Turkish, Ukrainian background. It was a very racist area at the time, back in the 70s and 80s. It's changed a lot now. Now it's a lot more multicultural in Australia, and there's a lot more understanding around different cultures. However, being born in Australia with a multicultural background, and being bullied at school, and seeing a lot of cruelty in the schoolyard, seeing people being cruel to animals, watching a lot of negative news that I'd watch every night on the TV, this all affected multiple levels of my life, but particularly the mental health issue is massive out there at the moment. What we've seen through COVID, we've seen 4 times the suicide rates that we normally have. So normally about 1 million people a year worldwide take their own lives. So 4 times that during the pandemic, as we like to call it here. And do your own research on this, right? Don't take our word for it here. Do your own research and look at places like BitChute and Rumble and Telegram. And, there's lots of free speech platforms out there, X, which is the old Twitter, of course. Do your own research with everything. What I know as a journalist for over 20 years in mainstream media, and having now 40 years of media experience with being around the circles of mass media programming that can happen and the channeling that can happen through the mass media, it's very important that we get conscious where we might have been unconscious to how the different messages in our environment, the wars, etc., the fires, the rising cost of living, like there's a housing crisis in Australia. Like we can focus on all those dramas in life. And if we do focus on all those dramas, generally we're going to be affecting our health in a massive way, in multiple ways, right? Because often people, if they have emotional feelings that come up, like sadness, anger around what's going on in the world, we're going to generally bottle that up in our body in some way. And this is where Louise Hay's Heal Your Life is such a powerful book, because disease is dis-ease in the body, right? So actually getting conscious to where you might be feeling some dis-ease in your body is telling you all the time, is giving you signals and warnings, and waking you up to what is great for you and your body and your temple. Not to put junk in the trunk. I heard someone say the other day, don't put junk in your trunk. We don't put crap fuel in our cars, yet how often do we put junk in our trunk when it comes to our body? And the healthier that we can be, with, exercise, with clean water, with sunshine, with all these things. That's so important. All these little things, grounding. I've been doing a lot of grounding lately, getting my feet on the grass and in the sand, getting into the ocean. All these things are so, so important. And nature turns it on, right? Nature turns it on. However, of course, now we have chemtrails and we have the poisoning, etc. We have, crazy wild weather that's a lot of it's been manufactured. I believe, and from what I've seen, we're certainly seeing some unusual patterns in the sky and aeroplanes flying over. And then suddenly, wild weather has been happening around the Gold Coast and I know other parts of the world. So these are all things to question and at the same time to look at how we can rise above it, because you are incredibly powerful as a human being, right? You are incredibly powerful. However, the powers that be in this world, some of these elite players out there that are ruling governments and ruling media, these people do not have your best interests at heart. We're dealing with a lot of sociopaths and psychopaths who do some really twisted stuff, right? And as you start to dig into some of this and, the whole Pizzagate thing and the child sacrifices and the sexual abuse, it all happens, right? Epstein Island, it's all out there, right? All the evidence is out there. What do you believe to be true that perhaps isn't? Right? And questioning. And this is the same around healing. Right now I have my mum in hospital, right? A month ago to today, it's now 17th of January in Australia. 17th of December, my mum got knocked over by a carer in her own home. Now, it was an accident. The carer didn't see her. She turned her back to my mum. She got up, she bumped my mum, and mum ended up with a broken arm. Now, mum was walking around, we'd walk for half an hour, no problem. Mum was stable on her feet. Right. Half-hour walks, no problem. She's 80 years of age. Yes, she has dementia. However, she was still with it. She still remembered who we were, etc. But now since the fall, she's now fractured her arm. Now she can't walk. She can't feed herself. She can't go to the bathroom clearly. She has to get sponged down in bed. They've got to change her pads every day. She needs to be spoon-fed. And this happened for the last month. Right. So life throws curveballs around the healing game, and it's incredibly frustrating. It brings up a lot of sort of emotions of anger, of sadness, dealing with the family as well, the repercussions of this. Like my dad's been, they've been married for 55 years and my dad had been caring for mum for 10 years. She never fell. Now she has a carer come to home. One thing happens, bang, on the ground, broken arm. Now we're looking at potentially putting her in a nursing home, which was the last thing we wanted to do, right? So I can't control the fact that mum right now can't walk, right? I can't control that. I can't control the fact that the fall has happened. I can control the food orders that are coming, because a lot of the hospitals, it blows me away how much sugar and crap they feed people. I've been putting the orders in for mum and putting healthy food orders in for mum. Thank goodness I've got that capacity to do that. And, I'm also doing my best to minimize the medication. And one thing I remember from a health guru that I really admired, a guy called Don Tolman, and his son Tyler Tolman, they talk about whole food eating for health. And I remember Don Tolman said many years ago when I saw it, 15 years ago, I was at one of his events, he said more people die from the treatment of cancer than from cancer itself. And that's just cancer. But now we have epidemic diabetes, we have epidemic heart conditions, we have, all of this. So now I'm going to go back to you, Ken, to talk more about the obesity epidemic that we've got right now, and what is going on with the state of the world and health right now.
Wow. You opened up the gates for me. Thank you so much. And I do want to comment on the whole hospital thing. Hospitals are for injured people, sick people, right? Then why when you go into a hospital cafeteria, do you see health food bars with seed oils in them? You see sugary items. Hospital staff is cooking with the industrial seed oils. Isn't this a place for sick people? Why are we feeding them that kind of stuff? Right? The food is, well, for lack of a better word, shitty. I mean, I'm just going to be blunt right there. It's a pile of manure. And it's so crazy to me. It's like, this is a place for people to heal. This is a place for people to get better. And they are feeding people poison, which is absolutely ludicrous to me. That's crazy. Um, so one of the things that I want to dive into today, and Aldwyn, I'm going to be kind of actually reading in from my boot camp series. So if you need to interject or ask a question, go for it. So I won't have our live screen here in front of me as
Sure.
I'm reading for this. So one of the things, so why do we have such a crazy epidemic today? I'm going to actually open this with a few stats. 18 million people die each year from heart disease. Let me repeat that again. 18 million people die every year from heart disease. What is it from? The majority of this is from processed foods, processed sugars, industrial oils, boxed foods, most pre-made foods, frozen dinners, most packaged foods, and the list goes on. Here's another stat. 40, and I've actually been told by my coach and mentor that this percentage here is actually conservative. So it's most likely more. But for, just for the purposes here, we're going to go with what I have here because it is still quite a staggering number. 45% of the world's population is either overweight or obese. Let that sink in for a minute. And to help you let it further sink in, 45% of 8.5 billion people is a whopping 3.82 billion with a B people. That is a staggering number. Projections are with an average raise of 3.5 to 4% each year. Projections are in the next 3 to 5 years, the rates will be at 52 to 55% of the world's population. That is more than half of the population for overweight and obese. That is craziness. Since the widespread introduction of and consumption of industrial vegetable and seed oils back in the 1950s, overweight and obesity issues have skyrocketed by at least 40%. Check this out, though. Before the 1950s, obesity and overweight issues were less than 10%. Interesting. Over 4 million people, on top of all of that, over 4 million people die every year from obesity. All right, so that's what we're looking at. We've got a very sick, in the most literal sense, a very, very sick population. Why? What's happened? What the heck is going on? Big Food has literally spent millions and billions of dollars on scientific research to put the right amount of certain ingredients in their foods. And they do this to bring you to the perfect bliss point, not above and not below, the perfect bliss point. This is what makes their foods actually taste so good and hooks you into addiction. These ingredients include highly processed sugars, industrial processed oils, known as seed oils, MSGs, bioengineered food ingredients, GMO ingredients, so-called natural ingredients. Don't even get me started on the natural ingredients because I know enough information about that will make your stomach turn. So, and this all leads to overconsumption, which drives sales and profits for the company. The companies use advanced food science to create flavors and textures that actually trigger the pleasure centers of the brain, making it hard for people to stop eating. Let me further explain. So this bliss point, what happens is you're eating packaged foods, boxed foods, chips, all this stuff. They're industry created food. It brings you to the perfect bliss point. It feels good. It tastes good. But because of the fact that it reaches the pleasure centers of the brain, so before I get there, as you're eating these foods, you create new neural pathways. Then your taste buds begin to change. then your cravings begin to change. Then pretty soon you're hooked into that system. You're craving their foods. A lot of times it's subconscious because your new neural pathways have been formed. And so when it's time to eat and you're in a hurry, it's really easy for you to grab that box of crackers or that snack at the grocery store or whatever it is. It's really easy to have that happen. Now, taking it a step further, though, because of the fact, so you've got the new neural pathways, it's changing your taste cravings, it's changing your taste buds, it's changing all of that. Now we add on to that the fact that the bliss point actually reaches the pleasure centers of the brain, which now means you're going to have emotions attached to that. Where do you think a lot of emotional eating comes from? Right? How many of you, I mean, I know there's got to be people out there that struggle with emotional eating and are freaking beating themselves up over that when at the root of the problem is this industry food. That is very much at the root of the problem. And see, these are things, the snacking issues, the hunger issues, the sugar addictions, the emotional eating. These are all things that are industry created. They created that in you so that they can make profit. You know, some of you maybe listening to this are just going, oh my gosh. And others, you're kind of like nodding your head going, yeah, I know. I get it. I get it. But do you really? And I'll get into that in just a second. So I want to kind of take it a little bit deeper here. So if that isn't bad enough, here's the next level. The cigarette and tobacco companies. See, the food industry and processed food industry was created by the tobacco and cigarette companies. They had a hand in developing also the mainstream food pyramid. So I'm going to read a couple quotes to you. And again, I'm reading from what I've produced in my mini bootcamp series. So in the 1980s, 1990s, a seismic shift occurred within the American food industry, one that remains largely unrecognized, but has profound consequences for public health. As cigarette smoking began to decline due to growing public awareness of its risks, the major players in the tobacco industry, R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris, sought new avenues for profitability. These companies, facing a declining market for cigarettes, turned their attention to a different but equally insidious industry: our food. In the 1980s, the cigarette giants began acquiring the food companies. By the 1990s, R.J. Reynolds and Philip Morris have become the two largest food companies in the world. This transition was not just a matter of diversification. It was a seismic shift in focus. These companies brought with them their expertise in making products addictive, a skill honed through decades of cigarette production, now applied to food. As cigarette sales declined, the scientists and researchers who once worked making cigarettes more addictive, these are the same scientists and researchers that industry pays millions and in a lot of cases billions of dollars to. So they were now reassigned to the food sector. Their new mission was to create food products that people would crave and consume in excessive amounts. This led to the development and mass production of ultra-processed foods designed not for nutrition, but for addiction. And so, as staggering and heartbreaking as that is the cold, hard truth. Now, if that isn't bad enough, here's the thing. The food pyramid was never about your health. It was never about a better way of eating. It was never about any of that. Because if you really think about it, the mainstream food pyramid promotes what? They promote pretty much high carb starches. So you've got the cereals, you've got the pastas, you've got all of that stuff, the breads that the industry is processed and made, and all of that. It was literally an advertisement to send you into a profit-making system for them. It was never about your health. Ever. The whole idea, and this is the other thing, I sit back and think about this sometimes, and it's mind-blowing to think so many people fell into that food pyramid, hook, line, and sinker, when it really makes no sense. Absolutely none at all. The whole idea of prioritizing carbs and starches and pastas and sugars over protein is insane to me. But that's exactly what they did to people. And I've got to ask, where were our logical thinkers? Where were our critical thinkers at that time? Because I don't know what happened. The industry just kind of pulled over the wool over everybody's eyes, and everybody fell into that hook, line, and sinker. And look at where we are today. I read off those stats. We've got staggering stats today. That is at the heart of the problem. This industry is at the heart of the problem, and it needs to stop. And I do have good news for you. So if you're just wondering, okay, what do I do then? Well, number one, start turning the freaking thing over. That is a phrase that's coined through my boot camp all over the place. When people walk away from my boot camp, I want them saying, or they walk away from my boot camp and in their store, I want them saying to themselves, turn the freaking thing over. When people walk away from my boot camp and they're thinking of me, I want them thinking, turn the freaking thing over, because that's what needs to happen. Because here's the other detrimental thing about it. It eventually came out, right, that cigarettes were not good, and it became very widely known, right? This food is still being advertised as healthy.
Yes.
That's the detrimental thing about it. And so you don't start realizing it until you turn it over. Second point, buy things with minimal ingredients, and ingredients you can understand. Third point, better yet, buy things with one ingredient. And so I'm going to take a pause and a breath and allow you to come in, Aldwyn.
Gosh, so much gold there, Ken. Thank you for sharing all that. Love those stats. Oh my gosh. Do you know that 43% of people in Australia, which is about 8.5 million people, have experienced a mental illness at some time in their life? So you mentioned there a stat of 45%, I believe, was the heart stat, was it? At the very beginning there?
Coronary heart disease. 18 million people die every year from coronary heart disease.
There you go. How interesting. 18 million people die from coronary heart disease, and about 8.5 million, 43% of the population in Australia have had a mental illness of some sort. And I'm sure it's all linked and all correlated, because if you're not well mentally, you're not going to be looking after your body well either, because we know that hurt people, and hurt people hurt themselves without maybe being conscious of it. So often if you're feeling crap about your life, you're not going to be treating your body and yourself in a kind manner in general, right? You're going to be having shit food. You're going to be, drinking a lot of alcohol, possibly doing other drugs, finding other ways to deal with perhaps trauma that you might have had in the past, or whatever it is that you're holding on to in yourselves. And we've all had some form of trauma. Most people have a story of, I'm not loved, I don't belong, or I'm not good enough. Now, when we have this happening on a mental, emotional level, it is going to affect our healing in other parts of our body and our life. And this is where doing the personal development work, I think, is just so crucial, in line with everything Ken is sharing here about being aware around your health and about the food pyramid, which we were actually taught the food pyramid in school. We were brainwashed from primary school in Australia about the food pyramid. And this is where the Out of Shadows documentary, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Out of Shadows was all about the programming that we have had through the school system through the education system from a very young age. We were told to do as we're told, to trust our elders, to trust authority. And now we know we cannot trust the government or authority at all, right? And this is why our show is called Total Truth Show, right? Because we know we cannot trust the authorities. I'm sure there are some great people who work in some, government organizations, etc. However, generally speaking, the fish is rotten from the top. Right. And, there are a lot of amazing people doing extraordinary work, but we need to get conscious to where we're being unconscious. And we need, I believe, so important when we talk about the truth about healing is healing ourselves, healing our wounds, healing our core wounds, healing our ancestral wounds, doing all the spiritual work, emotional work, having faith. There's so much that goes into this topic. So much. Now, interestingly, out of the 43% of people in Australia that have had some form of mental illness, did you know that 17% roughly of Australians had an anxiety disorder? So anxiety is actually the biggest mental illness that people have. And of course, if you watch the mainstream news and if you delve too deep, even going too deep down the rabbit hole potentially can take you into a place of anxiety and upset and getting conscious to Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness, getting that when we feel anger, we feel sadness, we feel grief or guilt, all those very stuck lower vibration emotions, that we are going to be stuck in other areas of life too, potentially. And so we need to, I believe, so crucially take a holistic approach to our healing, looking at a spiritual, mental, emotional, physical healing, and food, of course, is crucial. And as Hippocrates, or some people say, maybe Hippocrates didn't actually say this quote, but let food be thy medicine and let medicine be thy food. It's like all other problems that you might have go into insignificance once you have a health issue, right? When you have a serious health issue in your life, nothing else matters. You want to get that health issue sorted, because without your health, you don't have your wealth. And most people sacrifice their health to get their wealth and then sacrifice their wealth to get their health, and often trust doctors. We trust what we see often in the mainstream media. And this is where, getting informed with documentaries like Food Inc., for example, which I just saw recently. A lot of people said to me, have you seen Food Inc.? And look, this documentary came out in 2008, and it actually criticizes the industrial agriculture and the food production systems in the US, which favor corporations and capitalism over the well-being of consumers, animals, and the planet, which comes back to the whole food pyramid thing, right? The whole lie about, meat, dairy, etc., and corn-fed, Monsanto, the genetically modified food, all the pesticides that are on our vegetables, etc., right? Why are so many farmers being crucified in so many parts of the world? Why are they trying to stop organic farming? Why have we got the Australia fire ant eradication program being rolled out right now, $1.2 billion program where they're spraying poisons onto farmland and they're killing organic farming, and the poisons are getting into our waterways, which then people are then drinking that water without being conscious of, without knowing it. It's like the chemtrails and the poisoning that's been going on all around us. So we need to rise above it. We need to find alternative ways, and we need to get informed, to get empowered, I believe. I just want to say a quick welcome to our Instagram people who've got Mr. Ruler 34 has joined us. Hello there. Robert Mull, good to see you. Mind Health Services, nice to see you there. Growth Through Art, Yogi has joined us. We've got Mod Jewelers are with us. We've got Abdul Rubber Bay from Facebook says amazing. Welcome. Welcome wherever you're joining us from. If you've got something you want to share about your healing journey or any tips that you might have that can help people with their healing on this holistic level, then please share with us here in the chat. Now, Ken is the absolute guru when it comes to your health. Obviously, he's a living example of someone who has lost like 22 kilos, 60 pounds or whatever, and kept it off over 6 years. So obviously, Ken, you know how important the practices of health and healing are ongoingly. So I'm really curious, Ken, what are some things you do to maintain your healthy state currently?
Well, that's a really good question. Now, before I answer that, interesting enough, so what are some main ingredients that actually cause anxiety. What a correlation. Very, very interesting. Industrial seed oils is at the top of the list. Refined sugar, high fructose corn syrup is second on the list. Artificial sweeteners. Now, with that, I do want to preface that one. So I'm not speaking of what's it? Yeah, no, I'm not speaking of stevia or monk fruit. Those are more of a natural sweeteners, and so those are actually an okay life hack. All right, gluten. Gluten is another one that's on the list because most gluten is it's because of the processed stuff. It's because of what's been taken out of the DNA of the actual gluten or wheat and stuff like that. Preservatives and additives is another one. Processed and packaged food. There's another one that causes anxiety. Low quality dairy, soy based products. Let me speak into that for just a second. Soy. Did you know that 95% of soy is made in a lab? Soy is not good for you. Do not buy into it. Don't eat tofu. Don't eat any of that crap. It's not the health food that it's touted to be. I don't care what kind of health or fitness influencer you're following. No, stay away from it. So that's just a short list. Now, how have I gotten to the point to where, my body is healing, things are happening, different things like that? Well, first of all, it's one step at a time. Okay. You didn't gain the weight overnight. You didn't get in the situation you are overnight. You cannot expect it to be gone overnight. Will your taste buds in your body eventually reset? Absolutely 100%. Yes. But it's going to take a little bit, maybe 3 or 4 months of staying consistent. And all of a sudden your taste buds are going to change. Like if you're really paying attention to your sugar consumption, some of you might even cut sugar out altogether, which is really hard to do and it's not sustainable. So I don't teach cut all sugar out of your life because that's kind of not sustainable, right? I myself, I get sugar. I get most of my sugars from my sauces. I love my barbecue sauce. I love those are my negotiables, right? But I know, like, for a fact, like, my own mentor and coach, she steered away from sugars for a little bit of period of time for, like, about, 2 or 3 months, and she found a surprise happened. All of a sudden, cherry tomatoes became sweet to her. All of a sudden, vegetables and different things like that, she started to taste the sweetness of those things that wasn't there before. That's what gets to happen, and that's what begins to happen. It is a step-by-step process. So just like what I teach with your weight loss journey, one step at a time, making it be sustainable, that's what it's gotta be. That is actually my secret on how I have kept my weight off for 6+ years now, because every change and every habit, everything that I did through my journey had enough time to literally sink in and become part of who I was. Therefore, changing me internally, which, if you will, the side effect was I lost the weight and I've been able to keep it off. But it's because of the internal change that happened. And so as you're walking on this journey and you're making these changes, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a special treasure here, a gem, if you will. Every new change and every habit you adapt into your journey must be sustainable for the long haul. Long haul being the key word here. What do I mean by long haul? A year or two. Now, why a year or two? Not that I'm saying it's going to take that long for those to become who you are and automatic. No, I want you thinking that way, though, because it's got to be that mindset of a year or two. All right? Because I can guarantee you that when a year or two is up, those changes and new habits have literally sunk in and become part of who you are and automatic. That's the key. But I don't want you thinking, I can handle this for the next 3 or 4 months. That's diet thinking. Nope, we don't think that way anymore. Technically, yes. In 3 to 4 months, those new changes and habits will sink in and become part of who you are. But again, being very clear, I don't want you thinking that way. I don't want you relying on that, because it can be very easy. It's a slippery slope from that to kind of thinking on the diet mindset aspect. So that's why I teach long haul. It must be sustainable over the long haul. Part of one of the frameworks that I use in what I teach my clients, and I was just talking to a client about this the other day, time. Time is a key factor in your journey. You must allow enough time for these things to sink in and become part of who you are. So that's basically how it's done. And by also turning things over, developing the habit of turning everything over. And you're going to start making some maybe overwhelming discoveries and some surprising discoveries at the same time as you begin doing that. For one thing, one of the things that may be overwhelming to you as you start discovering is how many places these industrial seed oils can be found. They are in almost everything. And so it is going to take a little bit of restructuring in your life to finally rid yourself of these seed oils. We in this house, we are literally finally at the point to where there's not one product we have in this house that has seed oils in it. Not one. We didn't get there overnight. It was a slow progressional change, and we just kept finding things. Every time we pulled something out of the cupboard, I would turn it over before we used it. I'd be like, nope, it's got seed oils in it. Trash it goes. You know, I didn't do the thing where we went through our whole pantry and emptied everything and through. No, we just kind of slowly but surely. That's the key in your journey. And that's the key to better health is in number one, embracing the journey, embracing what the journey has to offer you. And that includes the challenging times, includes the times where you might fall off the horse. You get to embrace those times and grow through those times, get stronger, get better, get wiser. That's what it's about. That's what produces permanent results. Um, and so I would say one of the biggest keys to this is just becoming more conscious to the ingredients that you're bringing into your home, the foods you're bringing into your home. It needs to be way less packaged and boxed and pre-made. And yeah, if you're a frozen dinner kind of person, you like those pre-made dinners. I am sorry to tell you, that is not real food. And I also go very, very much in depth in that in my mini boot camp series. But here's what it looks like to switch things in your journey to where the foods you're eating are literally loving you back. I'm going to read from this portion of my level 2 boot camp, which Aldwyn, you have not been through yet. My co-host Aldwyn, she's been through level 1 and made some aha moments for sure, and I'll let her share those in a minute. But this is taken literally from my level 2 boot camp series, and this is in the section that talks about love what you eat. I just want that phrase to sink in there for a minute. Love, really love what you eat. So here we go. You might be surprised at that particular phrase, but it's true. You get to love what you eat. Now, I've kept my weight off for 6+ years now, and I feel like I eat like a king, and that's true. I don't say that I overindulge myself, but I really truly love what I eat, and I love the creations that I make. That's another key word, creation. It's about being creative with whole foods, real foods, and keeping it simple too. And you see, that's the key. It's about being creative with whole foods, minimal ingredients foods, and even better, single ingredients foods, and making creations that you enjoy with those foods. In addition, keeping it simple. Part of loving what you eat is definitely about keeping it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. I feel like a lot of people out there overcomplicate things. Find your hacks, find your groove, find what's going to work for you. It's all about falling in love with the foods that God has given us and the foods that He has designed. Falling in love again with the nourishments that those foods provide for our bodies. Through the worldly food matrix system, there's a lot of people that have lost that love for foods that God has designed that actually nourish our bodies. I also want to note here that it's not necessarily about restriction. It's not about seeing certain foods as a restriction. It's or even a frustration. God didn't design food that way either. It's literally about viewing foods as fuel for your body and as nourishment for your body. Again, we've got that love relationship going on, right? Okay. When you look at it this way, you unlock a deeper sense of satisfaction and joy in your health journey. Loving what you eat means appreciating the flavors, the nutrients, the life giving properties of whole animal based foods. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 13 reminds us everyone should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is the gift God has given to man. Progress in this area is not about forcing yourself to eat foods you dislike, but discovering the joy of eating foods that sustain your health and energy. When you enjoy what you eat, you create a sustainable lifestyle that honors both your body and God's design for you. As you grow in your health journey, loving what you eat becomes a way to express gratitude for the sustenance that God has provided. It is an acknowledgement of food, that food is not an enemy, but a blessing meant to sustain your body, mind, and spirit. When you approach food with this mindset, it changes the experience from one of control and deprivation to one of freedom and celebration. And if you know anything about me, freedom is something that I give people through that boot camp series. For many people, the concept of healthy eating is often associated with restrictions, sacrifice, and even guilt. The worldly diet matrix system has ingrained in us certain foods are bad, and if we eat them, we're failing. This mindset keeps us in a cycle of negativity and self-sabotage. And then you add in their bliss point system that brings you to the perfect bliss point and hooks you in and all that other stuff. It just ends up being a mess. So, however, there is tremendous process to be made when you begin to see food differently. Instead of focusing on what you can't have, focus on the abundance of nourishing, whole, animal-based foods. My program is animal-based, if you will. So if you are vegetarian or vegan, the underlying concept is the same: prioritize proteins. So anyhow, animal-based foods that fuel your body and provide it with life-sustaining energy. This approach is rooted in empowerment, and where you no longer are controlled by cravings, but instead you make intentional choices that reflect the values and health goals that you have. And now I'm going to skip down because this is quite an extensive section, and I'm going to read this last paragraph here. As you begin to prioritize foods that are closer to their natural state, whether it's a juicy steak, fresh vegetables, farm fresh eggs, you'll start to regain your taste buds to appreciate and even crave the flavors of nourishing unprocessed foods. This isn't just a physical transformation, but is a mental and emotional one as well. It's about falling in love with the foods that fuel your process. Fuel your process. God did not design foods to be a source of frustration or guilt. Let me repeat that statement. God did not design food to be a source of frustration or guilt. He designed it to be a source of joy and nourishment. Learning to love the foods that love you back actually creates a feedback loop. You enjoy eating, you feel better, and you continue making choices that support your health. So that, in a nutshell, I think answers your question, Aldwyn.
Yeah, amazing content there, Ken. And I'm sure the next stage of the boot camp will be amazing too. I certainly got a lot out of the work I've done with you so far. And I turn the freaking thing over all the time whenever I go shopping now, although sometimes it's very hard to read, I must say, the labels. however, I do notice how I feel when I eat certain foods. I notice some foods I feel energized after eating it. I notice the addictive side, like corn chips was something that I really loved for a long time. And some corn chips have got, MSG in it, which of course makes it very addictive. And anything where I see 3 number digits on the items, I know there's crap in it. Right. And, some people might say, well, in moderation, it's all right to have some of these things. Well, it's your life. Right. And and I think, we all at times splurge on different things that might not be so good for us. However, I think if 80% of the time, at least you're doing things that are nurturing your mind, body and soul, then I think that's fantastic. And I do notice when I eat bread, for example, I feel really bloated. I feel tired. Often when I'm eating things like bread. So I eat very little bread nowadays. As much as I love bread, there's certain foods that I must say that I've loved and I've loved for a long time. And same with pastas. Often I will feel bloated as well. I could be wheat intolerant, and possibly with all the pesticides and crap in the wheat, I'd say that leads to a lot of wheat intolerance. And then, of course, there's dairy intolerance as well. And it was interesting you said something there about low-grade dairy products as well. And when you think of a lot of the dairy cows are fed genetically modified corn, you've got to think about, well, that's going through, that's going through people's systems. And of course, a lot of chickens are pumped full of hormones that make them so fat in such a short amount of time that also people are ingesting that when they have chicken, if it's not organic. But then how do you know what's organic chicken even nowadays? It could be barn fed chicken, which could still be pumped full of hormones and crap. And so I think with everything, you've got to do your due diligence, buy organic as much as possible. I personally am vegetarian. I've seen some very healthy vegetarian and vegan people out there. And there's others that will, this is a whole debate in itself, right? The meat versus non-meat. I mean, I do it because it's a moral thing for me. I don't want to support the cruelty in the animal farming industry out there. So for me, it's a moral choice. And I, for many years I did eat meat. I was probably 95% vegetarian most of my life, but just more recently I decided, right, that's it, I'm going to go vegetarian. And of course, it is important if you are vegetarian to make sure you get the proteins and you get the right nutrients to back up what Ken's saying here, to get the proteins into you. We've got Guarded Body has joined us on Instagram. Guarded Body says, I've taken to saying nice things to my glass with a little water before I freeze it. Pretty crystals. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's what Dr. Emoto talks about the energy that we give our food, the energy that we the energy we put into things, what we put in will get back. So if you're in an angry state when you're eating, you're probably not going to digest. You're not going to be in a rest and digest mode if you're feeling angry when you're eating. So I think actually mindful eating, actually just taking a moment to be thankful for the food and thankful for everyone responsible for your food from the seed up is a beautiful practice. And actually to really be mindful, to really chew your food properly. Apparently 80% of digestion happens when we're actually chewing our food in our mouth. So take it easy on your body and take the time to digest your food properly rather than just shoving it down with the next thing. Now, on the topic of seed oils, Ken and I did an amazing show, The Truth About Seed Oils. Go right back through our episodes. You'll see it on Spotify. You'll see it on Facebook, etc. We've got a show called The Truth About Seed Oils where we go into great detail on that topic. And I was shocked that things like sunflower oil are bad for you. It's actually a seed oil that's not good for you. I thought sunflower oil, that sounds healthy. Surely that's good for you. And it's not, interestingly. So, and then also things like, coconut oil is great, but even olive oil, when you heat up olive oil, it changes the nutritional value as well of that oil. So really, there's so much to this. And as Ken said, just step by step, right? Inch by inch, everything's a cinch. The fact is, the truth is, we are the most overfed we have ever been as human beings on the planet and the most undernourished we have ever been, right? And there's no coincidences here, right? Because there is a mass depopulation agenda at play. We've seen this all through the pandemic and, look it up. Look it up, depopulation agenda. It's all out there. This is, the powers that be, unfortunately, a lot of them do not have your best interests at heart. And this is why now it's absolutely crucial to do your own research with everything and to notice how you feel when you eat certain foods, how you feel when you're living in a joyful, happy state in life, how you feel when you have faith. In fact, faith is one of the 13 principles in Think and Grow Rich, is having faith, whatever your faith is, right? Having faith, you're not alone on this journey. There is someone out there who has been on a similar path to you, and reach out if you want some support in this area. Of course, Ken runs his boot camps. Of course, I help people getting conscious with their media and their marketing, and help people get out there and be seen, heard, and known through the mass media. So we do conscious media. Ken does conscious health and well-being. So reach out. You're never alone out there. And it's amazing the resources that are available now, and thank goodness for social media now, that we have so much information out there that was never out there when we were just listening to the mainstream media. When all our news was just the mainstream media, we didn't know half the things we currently know. And now you are the media. Now the people are the media. And when it comes to healing, we are so incredibly powerful with our healing. One of our mass media mastery clients in my media program, Lorna Buckland, she was given 3 months to live 41 years ago. And she has healed herself from cancer. And I've had other people who've been told they've only got a year or so to live, and they've lived for many, many years. And whereas if you believe what the doctors say, and if they say you're going to live for a year, and if you believe that, then no doubt you have the power to make sure that you die within that year, if that's what you believe. So also be very careful and mindful about what you're actually believing to be true that may not be true as well. And this is where the Outer Shadows documentary is so powerful. Food Inc., What the Health is another great one. And we've actually got a whole lot of these documentaries are in the Conscious Community Global Facebook group. We've actually got a whole lot pinned in there that you can really open your mind to so much amazing information that will enable you to move forward in an empowered way when it comes to your own health and your own healing as well. I've seen absolute miracles happen where people have been told they're never going to walk again, and then they've walked again, etc. Now, another big important issue here is fasting, the power of fasting. Now, some people love fasting, some people don't love fasting, but I personally have been intermittent fasting. Ken, I want to come back to you as actually some daily practices that you do, because I know you do intermittent fasting as well. What is something, and I know you go to the gym, which I also go to the gym as well, so we have similar practices there. What is the simple things people can do to, apart from what we've said already here, to maintain and sustain a happy, healthy life? Over to you, Ken.
So it is interesting with intermittent fasting, and I'm kind of pulling up something that I wrote about it a while back. So as I'm talking, I'm going to be a little bit distracted. Here we go. I got it. I have an interesting story around intermittent fasting. For a long time, I actually stayed away from it. I was afraid of it, because I was afraid I would get into the gym in fasted state and I would faint in front of a bunch of people. And the whole idea of that did not ride well with me. So I kind of shied away from it for a long time, until I did a little bit of experimenting of my own, where I set up a routine out here in my living room and went into one of my rigorous, very intense cardio routines in fasted state. Lo and behold, what I found was the exact opposite of what I expected. I had cleaner energy. I had more stamina. I had more focus. And that stayed true as I continued to experiment with it. And then eventually, intermittent fasting just became a part of my life. And as I started deep diving into it and doing some research on the benefits behind it, I started to fall deeply in love with intermittent fasting. So I don't do intermittent fasting because I need to do intermittent fasting to keep no. I do intermittent fasting because, one, it's become a lifestyle for me, and two, I just like the way my body responds to it. I like the way I feel. I like the energy I have at the gym. I like the focus it gives me throughout the day. It's so much better. Now, on top of that, literally, I do, from my research and from what I've, you know, dove into, I'm not a believer in the multiple meals per day club either. I mean, take, for example, breakfast, the most important meal of the day, right? It gets your metabolism started. It gets it going and running, and you just make sure you get that great, that first meal of the day. And these are some of the things that were ingrained in us growing up. And the thing about it is, the more research I did around the concept of breakfast, too, the more I learned there's no scientific basis for that. There's no there is no scientific basis for that. There's no real proof for that. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So where did it come from? Where did that whole concept come from? So in light of everything that I've shared about these companies that, develop food to bring you to the perfect bliss point, the fact that food's been designed to be addictive, it, this is going to fall right into line of that. The whole concept of breakfast is the most important meal of the day actually came from the cereal companies. It came from the cereal companies. There is no scientific base. It was a slogan that they put out to get people to eat more of their cereal. And then all of a sudden it just became mainstream and it became programmed in our minds. But I want to bring it back to the old school way of thinking. See, we say breakfast, but what it really is break fast. Break fast. There is no most important meal of the day. It's, when you break your fast, you're having your first meal of the day. Now, granted, I am going to say this. When it comes to breakfast, I will say this that I love about it. There are some good foods that came out of that. Because I love my pancakes, French toast or eggs and bacon and the sausage and the 100% pure maple syrup. Oh my gosh, there's just so many good things there. Okay, so there's that. But we don't need to eat multiple meals per day. As a matter of fact, as I dig deeper and deeper into that, and I look at our ancient ancestors, they weren't eating multiple meals per day. They maybe, on average, they would have 1 meal per day, sometimes 2, if they were munching on some berries along the trail or whatever. But there were some times where they didn't have anything because they didn't catch anything that day. And when you take a look at the body structure of these ancient ancestors, they were fit, they were strong, they were able, and mortality issues were far from them. One of my very, very, very first clients that ever hired me as a coach, she used to be a bodybuilder and went through all those seasons and stuff like that. And I asked her personally, I said, as a bodybuilder, did you buy into the lie that you need to eat multiple meals per day to gain all that muscle? And she was like, no. She's like, I didn't. So even she was able to get the muscle on her body that she needed for the competitions without the multiple meals per day concept. So it's really interesting. So our bodies were not meant for that. Our bodies need that break. So it's not always digesting food and different things like that. You've got to give your body a break. So there's that. And then lastly, further to answer your question, Aldwyn, I'm going to read just some basic health benefits that I found. Now, there's a lot more. So this is just a basic little outline. So here are the health benefits of intermittent fasting. Human growth hormones. The levels of growth hormones skyrocket, increasing as much as 5-fold. This has benefits for fat loss, muscle gain, to name a few. Insulin. Insulin sensitivity improves, which is a good thing. And the levels of your insulin drop dramatically. Lower insulin levels make stored body fat more accessible. Interesting. insulin resistance. Intermittent fasting can reduce insulin resistance, lowering blood sugar by 3 to 6%, and fasting insulin levels by 20 to 31%, which should protect against type 2 diabetes. Now, that's another thing I'll speak into real quickly. Intermittent fasting has been known to bring people with diabetes into remission. Interesting enough. Cellular repair. When fasted, your cells initiate cellular repair processes. This includes a process where the cells digest and remove old and dysfunctional proteins that build up inside your cells. Gene expression. There are changes in the function of genes related to longevity and protection against disease. Inflammation. Some studies show that some studies show reductions in markers of inflammation, a key driver in many chronic diseases. Yes, inflammation is a major cause of a lot of diseases, problems, coronary heart disease, all of it. Heart health. Intermittent fasting may reduce oxidized cholesterol cells. So, and then it reduces blood sugar, insulin resistance, as I just said. Cancer. Animal studies suggest that intermittent fasting may prevent cancer. Brain health. Intermittent fasting helps to aid in growth of new nerve cells. It may also protect against Alzheimer's disease. Interesting. And the last one I feel is a big bombshell. Check this out. Anti-aging. Intermittent fasting can extend lifespan in rats. Studies show that fasted rats lived 36 to 83% longer. So if you wanted a reason to intermittent fast and to explore it, go for it. Now, one last thing I will say here, and I say this, I said this to multiple clients before when they're exploring intermittent fasting. What you get to do with it is start intermittent fasting at a level that your body is comfortable with. And then you play with it and kind of extend it out a little bit here and there. Don't jump into intermittent fasting with going 16, 18, 20 hours fasted state. That's where the people that are talking bad about intermittent fasting went wrong. Most of them is, they went too extreme to start. Start off at a place where you're comfortable with. Start off 14 hours fasted, and then see if you can extend that to 16 hours, and then see if you can extend that to 18 hours. So, but start at like 14 to 16 and stay consistent with that over like 2 or 3 weeks. See how your body responds, and then adjust it as you go. So that's how you do it.
Amazing. Thank you, Ken. And I know a lot of people fast actually for 3 days, 7 days, etc. And, some of these people are incredibly healthy. And then others who speak about fasting for that long, it actually stresses them out, and they don't enjoy it at all. However, back in the day, back in ancient times, human beings often fasted for a week, where they just didn't have food, etc. And look at, some of these old civilizations, they live for hundreds of years, so here we are now, the current civilization of human beings, we, average age we live to is about 85, 87, somewhere like that for most people. And so, try it on for yourself, see how you find it. I know since I've been intermittent fasting, so what it looks like for me is I'll have black coffee in the morning. I do love my black coffee and water in the morning. And then usually I'll have a main meal of the day, usually around sort of somewhere between 12 to 3 o'clock around lunchtime. And then I'll have generally a smaller meal at night, might be, between 6 and 8 p.m. around then. So eating late at night is actually really bad for you, because that's where you'll store the fat, and a lot of food turns to sugar overnight. And so, some people fast or just eat for a 6 hour window or 8 hour window. So be aware if you're eating food late at night. I do find when I have done it, I've often woke up feeling very sluggish as well when I eat late at night. So it's best not to eat, too close to bed, is from the research I've done, Ken.
I have to interject because I'm a night eater. And again, my body though is different. So everybody's body is different. So I also don't necessarily believe in you can't eat food late at night. It really depends on the person, actually, because I'm living proof. I don't eat my dinner until I don't know, around 9:30, and then I'll go to bed typically at around 11:30, 12 midnight. Um, and that works for me. That's actually to eat earlier would actually disrupt a lot of things in my schedule. And so, that's just what works for me, but that is something that I've done for years. And again, I'm living proof. I've kept my weight off for 6+ years now. I eat late at night. So, but that's me. Like I said, every body type is different. As you're on your health journey and as you're on your weight loss journey, you have to find your life hacks that work for you and that your body's responding the way you want it to with. That's what you get to do. So anyhow, back to you, Aldwyn.
Yes. Well, see, interestingly, Ken, you eat late at night. However, there's about a 2-hour window there before bed that you actually don't eat, right? So that's more of what I meant, is don't eat right before bed, right? So allow a bit of time before you actually go to bed to, if you are going to eat late at night, that allow that little bit of time. From the research I've done, allow 1 or 2 hours before you actually sleep to not eat in that time. So that's that's awesome, and I agree. It's going to be different courses for different horses, or different horses for different courses, whichever way you will look at it. It's going to be different for everybody. And when it comes to this healing journey, we would love to hear from you. What has been working for you? What are some of your hacks that you can share with us? Please let us know in the comments. We are about to wrap up our show now and share how you can find out more about how we work with people, etc. But before we do, I know Ken wants to say something.
Interesting enough, though, I've got to share this, and Aldwyn will probably laugh and maybe roll her eyes, but we were talking about before we went live on this episode that we were going to keep it short. We're going to keep it to 1 hour. Here we are at 1 hour and 20 minutes. I don't think we can do it. I just don't think we can ever have an hour episode.
I think anything is possible, Ken, although it's challenging potentially for us. Love to chat. So on that, I would love to hear from you, Ken. Now, we always share a favorite quote or motto as well that we love. So we'll share that, and then how people can work with you, Ken.
All right. So my quote to start here, let me, if this thing will pull it up for me. There we go. So a couple real simple ones. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Psalms 147, verse 3. It's a beautiful reminder that God is the ultimate source of healing for our hearts and lives. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28. Rest in God's presence and allow him to carry your burdens during times of struggle. And lastly, the Lord sustains him on his sickbed. In his illness, you restore him to full health. Psalm 41, verse 3, a powerful reassurance of God's care and restoration during illness. So those are my quotes.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Now, I have given you on this episode that we've done today a huge chunk of information and stuff that's in my boot camp and lots of treasures and gems. So I'm giving away my 3 secrets to help you to break free from the sugar addictions, the snacking issues, the hunger issues, the emotional eating, all of it, and even lose that last 20 or 30 pounds and keep it off for good. I will equip you with an empowered mindset shift, number 1. I will also equip you to see past the industry lies and avoid the common pitfalls, number 2. And number 3, I will equip you to see past the marketing deceptions of this industry. They put it all over their packaging. They make you think what you're buying is healthy when it's really not. I help you to see past all that and empower you with more freedom around your food choices. My program and what I do, it's not about deprivation. It's not about frustration. It's not about any of those things. So that is my actually mini boot camp. And it's 3 short one-on-one sessions with me for right now until I raise the price again. Right now, it's only $97. Seriously, you've got nothing to lose but those extra pounds, and you've got everything to gain in the right way and the freeing way. So join my mini educational boot camp. Again, it's not an eating plan. It is not an exercise plan. It is educational. And it's educational in such a way you will walk away never looking at food the same ever again, in a very freeing way, in a very good way. Like I said, not frustration or deprivation or anything like that. So there's that. Now, how you can find the boot camp and connect with me is through www.masteryweightloss.com/connect. Mastery is spelled Mastery, weight loss, spelled the way it sounds, .com/connect. At the top of that site, you'll find a link to join my boot camp. $97. Seriously, that is not a sizable investment, guys, for what you're going to get out of it. And then there's 3 other links in there. There's a link to connect with me on Facebook. There's a link to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Lots of good content on there. And then there's also a link to book an assessment call with me, which is free. So if you're not ready to join the boot camp and you want to get on a call with me, then book an assessment call with me. Let's go. Let me point you in the right direction. So back to you, Aldwyn.
Yay. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. Ken is amazing. I highly recommend his boot camp. So definitely check him out, or at least have a chat with him. And as he said, also, he's got those other shows that he does as well, where he's looking for guests there as well. So that could be an opportunity for you. Now, my quote I am going to give you today is: healing is a daily event. You can't go somewhere to be healed. You must go inward to be healed. This means a daily commitment to doing the work. And that's from Dr. Nicole LePera, who's known as the holistic psychologist. Now, it's an interesting quote. Healing is a daily event. I think this is, holistic healing is a daily event. I think you can go to different places and you can get segments of healing done in different places with different treatments, etc. However, really, overall, holistic health and healing is something that is multifaceted and multi-layered. Yes, so that's my quote there. And for those who want to connect with me, now I mentioned the Conscious Community Global Facebook group. Now you will find that and all my other links you'll find here in Linktree/Aldwyn. So if you go to linktr.ee/Aldwyn, you will see at the top there, I actually have an amazing event coming up next week. It's actually on the 25th of January, Australian Eastern Standard Time at 1 p.m. Brisbane time, which for those in the US, it will be your 24th of January at night time. So check out the conversions there. And it's called Propel Your Profile in 2025. If you are sick of being the world's best kept secret, if you have a fantastic message, story, or purpose in the world and you want to go next level, then you will love this free masterclass. It's 2 hours. I give heaps of content. We've had so many 5-star reviews from this event. You will absolutely love it. So hop along there. It is free to come along, or there's some VIP options in there as well. So check that link out. Also, we have some free media resources at my website. We have the Global Good News Challenge as well that happens every single month. This is free marketing for you and a chance that you can lift your energy. You can share gratitude and good news, lift the energy of those around you, and also help to decrease depression and suicide rates. And then also in there, you'll find my calendar link if you want to have a chat. We also do some PR for some clients, and we have our Mass Media Mastery program as well, which is awesome and guaranteed publicity with that program. So reach out if you want to find out more about that and leverage some of my amazing contacts
networks and 40 years of media experience there. Hop along there. You'll see my YouTube channel there, 1,400 videos in my main YouTube channel, which is awesome. This is my second YouTube channel here as well. So just search my name. You'll see me all over the place there. I would love to connect with you. We've got Sensalo Muhammad has joined us. He says, hello, guys. Hey, Sensalo, good to see you there. Let us know if you've tuned in live, what you have thought of this show today. What are some gems that you've got out of this? What is some action maybe you're going to take differently moving forward? And if you're watching the replay, welcome as well. Please let us know in the comments what you've thought of this show. What have you got out of it? And if you think there's someone else that could also benefit from this show, then please share the love. Make sure you like our Total Truth Show page on Facebook. Check us out on Spotify, on all the places. We are out there, and we absolutely love doing this show. 91 episodes. I'm so proud of us, Ken. Soon it's going to be 100. We'll have to do something special for our 100th episode coming up shortly. So I'm very excited about that. Anything else you want to share, Ken?
You guys, I'll leave you again with these 3 things that I mentioned earlier. Number 1, turn the freaking thing over. Number 2, buy things with minimal ingredients. And number 3, better yet, buy things with just 1 ingredient. An example, a grass-fed ribeye steak. What is the ingredients in there? 1, meat. It's as simple as that. Yes, it's not going to be overnight, but those are 3 simple things that you can do right now and begin doing and developing habits around that will help you make some changes right now. That's it.
Yay. Thank you, Ken. And I want to say also a big thank you to everyone who has wished me a happy birthday. I am so grateful for you. I've had literally hundreds of messages coming in with all these birthday greetings. I'm so grateful. I've had people singing to me and doing all sorts of stuff, playing music for me. It's been really, really cool. I want to thank you. You know who you are. Now, for those who are on the Gold Coast or in Southeast Queensland or Northern New South Wales area, I'm having 2 parties coming up on Sunday afternoon and also on Tuesday. So if you want to know the details and if you want to come along, then just send me a private message. I can get you those details. We're going to be partying. We're going to be celebrating life in the next week. So the party celebrations are going to continue. And I do want to give you all the clap right now and send you all very much love as we tune out today for our episode 91, The Truth About Healing. Yay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ken. Happy birthday. Capricorn, thank you, Ken. Absolutely awesome show. Blessings to you. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next time on Total Truth Show. Bye for now.